Which topics will be focused today? I will lead you through our agenda. First of all, of course, some welcome from our side. And afterwards, I'm going to present you the newest Symbio versions, of course, focusing on the topic internationalization. Then we are going to have a small break. Afterwards, Mrs. McRae from Maschinenfabrik Rheinhausen will talk to you and present their global process management with Symbio. And at least the last presentation will be by Oliver Teller. He will present you the roadmap and which topics will be in 2018. So why did we choose this topic, internationalization? Not just because it's a quite difficult word to spell, also it's something which is common in all of the companies and all of the businesses, and especially small and medium-sized companies are expanding globally and working more in other countries and locations. And therefore, we thought that this is a topic where all our customers and the people who are interested in it can have a better inspiration of us. So, which are the challenges for small and medium-sized companies? These, especially by working in different countries and locations, all of the countries have different requirements and laws, and to adapt these in their businesses is quite a huge challenge. Furthermore, which is also a point for companies, is the certification. The companies are trying to have the certification not just because it's good for the business to show, hey, we have a certification. It's also has a huge impact on the last challenge, the process optimization, which leads to a better efficiency. And I forgot something to say. If you have questions through the presentation, don't hesitate to type them into the chat box. We will answer them at the end of the presentation. So let's continue. So these challenges has a huge impact on globally working companies, and especially also on the QM and BPM, which needs a global management system. And why? I'm going to explain you why, because the different locations, the different country subsidiaries have also their own data and own requirements, and to collect them into a global system, into global process management is an issue which is not covered by the BPM market, and the ongoing copies of this data is also leading to data diversity. So therefore, it is definitely needed harmonization of processes and document digitalization. So, and how are we, Symbio, going to solve this kind of issues and challenges? Actually, we are already solving this by two different concepts. One is called the master-slave distribution concept, and the other is working on a single database. And I'm going to explain you which one is. I'm going to clarify which concept is used how. So the first concept is the master and slave distribution concept, and this is working like this. We have a global database and small and other local databases. Like, for example, we have the subsidiary A, B, and Z with the local with the global database. In this global database, there will be all content, all processes, all data, which also are included in the local databases. So it means you have just one database for the standardized processes, the standardized contents, and this can be shared to the local databases. For example, there's the German energy market. In the energy market is E.ON. E.ON has legally, is legally to separate the databases, and they are not allowed by law to have the same processes in another database. So this model is quite working well for this kind of issue. However, the local databases can still interact between each other, so they can get linked and quite also have the linkage to other processes and other documents. But they can't work on the standardized processes and data from the global. And I'm going to show you later on how this looks like in Symbio. The second concept is working on a single database. From Mrs. McRae will show you this later on, because they're working like this concept. And how is this working? We have one database with all the informations, and you can separate the informations for each group and each user by using the filter or by using the authorization, the permissions. For example, on this view, we have a database where a small or big content can only be viewed by the management group, and the other group, the viewer group, can only see the employee group, because the management information has sensitive processes or some other services which are only available for the management group. However, all user can still use the filter function and search for personal or relevant information in the whole database. And now, also both concepts can be combined. So you can use also the filters and the permissions in the master-slave distribution model, and vice versa. So now I'm going to show you how these models are working in Symbio. Therefore, I need a minute. So I opened Symbio and start to present you our newest features and also the models I presented you before. So I'm going to start with the distribution model. And again, we have one global database with here, for example, 2 local databases. And all the informations from the global database, from the master, so-called, can be shared to the local databases. For example, inputs, roles, or even processes. And this looks like this. I'm in the slave database, as you can see here, and have a process, a sub-process, which I am only which is only readable. So all content from the global database, from the master, can just be viewed, not edited. Exactly, yeah. So how does it work when I want to share content from the global database? Just that you see it. For example, we don't have any roles here. Now I'm going to the master database and setting up a new role like test 1. Also important to know is that just released information can be shared to the local local databases. So all the content in process will stay in the master database. So when I'm releasing this, I can distribute this role just by one click to the slave database. When I'm going to the administration, I can share this. This works also like when you don't want to distribute all single content, you can collect them and share it by just one. So as you see, I have here the slave storage, and by clicking on distribute, the role will be set up in the slave databases. Let's see if it worked. I have to refresh it. So after refreshing it, you see the test 1 from the global database is distributed to the slave database. So that's how the distribution model works. This can be also done with all the informations in the main navigation, like the organization, IT. All single content or in group can be distributed to the slave databases. And if the administrator or the architect of the master database wants to edit it, it's also changed in the slave databases. So the next concept, the next feature is the permissions. Using permissions can be, first of all, to use the permissions, the user groups has to be defined. This also works by doing the Active Directory authentication in Symbio. So if the user groups, for example, Symbio authors, are defined in Symbio, this role concept, this whole group will be also set up in Symbio. So after setting up the user groups, the authors and the architects can define the content by permissions. So for example, whole process house can be permitted for example, the management process just for the management, and all other contents can also be permitted. After doing the permission, there are also the effects of the permission. For example, as I said, if the management process, if the management is permitted to view the whole management process category, this will be only shown by him. The viewer or the other groups don't have any access to the levels. So also this works for the authors. Besides of the viewer, also the authors can be permitted. This has a slightly different effect. So just the authors for the permitted groups of permitted content can be work on it, but they can still see it if they are in the group. Then let's continue with the newest feature of the Symbio 1801. We changed our filter filtering and have a new concept of it. And now I'm going to present you how this looks like.
Hello? Yeah, sorry, Mikail has some technical problems, but now it should work. It should work now,
Can you
Mikail.
hear me now? So perfect. So I'm sorry for this inconvenience. So let's start again. So how does the filtering work? By setting the filters, the author or the architect can set more than just one filter criteria. So it means the process one can have two organization filters and one location filter, also a tag. And this works like this. If one of these criteria is a fit with the criteria with the filter the user set, it will be shown. The user, however, can also define more filters, and if he sets up two criteria like organization A and location X, the processes has to fit in both criteria. Like for example, here the user one has set up the organization A and X, and this fits into the process one and process three. Same for the user two. He has the B and X, and you see how it works. That's how the concept is and how it looks like in Symbio. We changed the filtering from the user information right in the header to the filters here left next to the database. So I'm going to show you how this will look like. As you see, I have all access to the main processes. And when I'm setting, for example, logistics as a filter, one second, the content is filtered by the filters which fits to the criteria I choose. So this is the effect on the process house. It also has another effect. For example, in the main navigation, all the information which is not in the criteria will be blanked out, I say, and the process which fits is highlighted and I can choose it. Same also for the objects in the sub-process. For example, this star good sub-process has different process tasks, process flow, and also objects which are linked. And as you can see here, the objects which are not into the filters are blanked out. The next effect is the detail content. For example, these three objects are not fit into the filter criteria, and they won't be listed also in the detail content. If I want to see it, however, just by clicking off show all, we go to the dependencies navigation and see all the content which are still in this sub-process. The next thing we can do with the filter is filtering the lists. For example, I have here set up a few measures, and it's already filtered by the criteria I set. And if I take it away, all the contents which are previously filtered are showed again. This works also otherwise if I can activate and deactivate it all the time. So that's actually how the filter works. Let's go on to the next feature, which is the variant management we released in the version 5.11. The concept of variants is that some processes are standardized, and however the location this location process can vary from the standard one, the master one. So we have the ability to change this standardized for the variant I choose. For example, I have here the Munich variant. There's another additional process step, and this slightly different from Frankfurt and also from the master. And
sorry, Mikail has again some. Now you're back.
Yeah, we can change three informations of the process. For example, the process file can be changed, the process flow, as you see in this example, and also the process items. And I have also prepared another sub-process where you can see it, how it looks like. We have here the master variant. It is standardized for all the locations. And now we have two different variants for Frankfurt and Munich. For Frankfurt, I changed the object of this process step, book warehousing, and as you can see, it is notified with the L, which means that it's localized. And if I want to know why, just by clicking of it in the detail content, I see the reason why there's a location. There's a localization. The same also for the Munich one. Here I changed the process flow, also seen in the view previously. It's also marked with the L, but also marked with a yellow sheet that the process flow is localized and is different. So what can we do with this variant? We can work on a standard one and update all the informations to the variants, and we can slightly have a difference or new contents in the variants. Still, when I'm updating the standard one, the master one, all the information from the master, which is not localized in the variant, will be updated. So let's go to the next feature, the translation service. In Symbio, since 5.11, we have the opportunity to translate manually the content in the HTML editor, or we also have the opportunity to translate it automatically. We can choose between more than we can choose nearly all languages in the administration, and I prepared, for example, the Chinese and the Spanish one. And when I'm going to the let's see it again. When I go to the sub-process and click on translate, a new window is popping up, and I have the opportunity to translate all content. Show you how. The sentence, please translate this sentence, should be translated into Chinese. Well, my Chinese is not that good, so I'm not sure if it's correct, but maybe one of you can see if it's right or not. But in the German one, you see the sentence is correct, and we have the Spanish one also translated. this translation feature can also have different kind of languages. These has to be defined by the by the admin. Sorry for this. Yeah. And after choosing this, the author can translate all the contents which are edited manually. We have also new standard methods in our Symbio 1801. Especially for documentation and digitalization, we set up a new facet which is called the standards. Previously, they were in the guidelines, and now, as you can see, we have here the standards in the main navigation, and all the norms and laws can be edited here, and also the documents. We also have the new function of editing edge attributes. This looks like this. In the default view, nothing has changed. However, when you go to the detailed, you can see that the edges here is edited with some words. You can specify all the edges, all the inputs, and also the rules with words. So just by clicking on the edge, you can see here the connection state, and it can also be specified. Another feature of Symbio 1801 is that now subprocesses can be defined under subprocesses. So previously, subprocesses has to be detailed by detail processes, and now also the new hierarchy can be done by subprocesses. As you see here, we have the level 1 subprocess, the level 2 subprocess, and the level 3 subprocess. Then we have the interface shapes. This is also a feature which was asked a lot, because sometimes a process is linked to another process which is not released, and when this process is not released, this one, for example, couldn't be released as well. So now the author can put on an interface shape to have a kind of replacement, and after that he or she can release this process without linking it to another process. Another use case is if the interface is linked to a subprocessor which is not released, the process still can be edited and released. So it doesn't have any impact for this process. Yeah, there are also some other features in Symbio 1801. We will present all of them in our webinar on 12th February, which is in German, and the 13th February, which is in English. All other features of Symbio 5.11, you can already see it on our YouTube channel. Just go on Symbio World or go on our homepage, and there you can see, for example, the variant management and translation service in detail again. So let's